have asked if they're not here, if they can watch it later. So I'll record and I'll get this out so people can see it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my PowerPoint. It's really just an agenda on the PowerPoint to keep me on track. So I'll share my screen here. All righty, can you see the PowerPoint? Not yet, probably. There you go. Just somebody give me a thumbs up if you can see it so I know. Thank you, thank you. So now I can only see 4 of you, so I'm gonna spread it out so I can see everybody again. So this is what your children will be experiencing with Zoom and all of our teachers in a week. And I really don't have an excuse for not being able to navigate this smoothly. I've used Zoom for many years for other classes I've taught. So it's still good practice for me too. All right, so.
Sharon, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're not in presentation mode yet.
All righty, thank you.
Sure.
All right, now can you tell it? My screen is looking very strange.
Now you are.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so here we go. All righty, so this, well, we've been here almost 2 weeks now, a week and a half. One of our themes really for this year and what we're focusing on our staff, so kind of our tagline or our theme is to find joy in the journey. Because you can imagine classroom teachers, you know, they're coming back in the middle of a pandemic also, just like you and your children will be, and it's challenging, you know. I think at one of our first meetings, I said, nothing that you've ever done in education will look the same. And it's true, nothing will look the same. You know, we're still going to do the best we can to provide a high educational opportunity for children. Of course, that's, you know, that's their life and their career. And for teachers, it's their hobby, it's their passion and what they do. But things are going to look different. So we've had to think a lot about just normal school business and how we can or need to modify that to keep students safe in the remote, in the hybrid model, how to continue to provide high quality educational opportunities with feedback and assessing student learning, how to do that. And so there's just been a lot of new and a lot of new technology to learn and all of that kind of thing. So, you know, we're trying to focus on finding joy in the journey, and we are finding joy in the journey. And I think when we fast forward even a year or 2 years, there'll be things that we do differently because of this COVID that we'll continue to do differently in the future. I'm confident of that because I'm already seeing, you know, some celebrations in that way. And so we're going to find joy in the journey, and we're going to ask that you find joy in the journey also. It's not going to be easy and it's going to be different, but we're still very optimistic and positive, and we're at that point. We're ready for kids. We're ready for our children to come back and join us. So looking at the agenda then, I feel like I skipped one. Nope. Okay, so we're really going to go through a couple of parts of this return to learning building level plan. And so this is if you've had a chance to look at it, I sent it out in the newsletter that you received this weekend. And this is really a lot of different process and procedures compiled into one place. So our focus tonight will primarily be on arrival and dismissal, that process that we'll use this year, and lunch. And of course, then I'll provide an opportunity for you to ask questions that you will have. And during that question and answer time, I would encourage you to only ask questions that would apply to most people on the Zoom, and anything that you would have individually about your family situation or your child. You know, I would encourage you to call me and we can talk more about that specifically, or to call Emmy or Roxanne if it's related to their roles in the building. So we're going to try to keep that part, you know, I don't want to say generic because I want to answer your questions, but just not about single situations. So the first part then again is arrival and dismissal. So I'm going to open this document and actually just kind of walk through a couple of things with that. and talk about it. But before I do that, we're going to talk about arrival and dismissal. And I'm gonna apologize because the map I'm going to show you might be a little bit goofy, but I think it'll really help you to see on the map what we're thinking about and what we're going to do. And that'll just help us through the conversation. So I'm going to pull up that document. If you have the document electronically, well, it's not pulling up. Are you guys just seeing it? There we go. Can you see it now? Okay. All right. So on the page that's the table of the contents, these are all live links on here. Can you see my arrow as I'm going down here? Yeah. So these are live links. So when I hold my control button and push on arrival, you know what? I don't think it works on the online format. But on your computer, it should work that you can just go click on the link and it'll take you right to arrival and dismissal. And so the part I want to show you here, and then we'll just go right to the map, is on every area in this book, the safety and health pieces are always very much the same. So, you know, we're doing a lot of these things in the building already. So masks will be worn at all times by adults and students in the building during the arrival and the dismissal process, going to and from lunch, in the classrooms. And at recess, they can take the mask off unless they're playing a contact sport or playing closely with a friend. And then they'll have to have their mask on too. And so we're pretty serious about that and making sure that people are, you know, maintaining that 6 feet distance as much as possible. No gathering of large groups. We're avoiding long lines of kids waiting for things. And then this one is so hard. I know it's gonna be hard for you and it's really hard for us, but no parents in the building, no visitors, no volunteers, no field trips. All of those things are put on hold this first semester, and we'll play it by ear as the year goes on. And then the other part, you know, you might have heard a lot of the conversation about a stable group. And so students and staff are primarily going to stay in their stable group. And so for the sake of an elementary school building, their stable group is their classroom. So in the past, you might have thought of it as their grade level. So like all of 5th grade would go outside together and 4th grade might join them. This year, recess would look a little different, where just 5th grade is on the playground, but the stable group, so Mrs. Davis's class will be in one area of the playground and the other teacher will be in another area. So as much as possible, we have to keep them with that stable group. And the same for lunch. They'll sit with their stable group and really just kind of hang out with that same group of people throughout the day. And so when you see stable group, that's what that's referring to. And then for arrival and dismissal, you know, sometimes we have teachers that like to help open and close car doors and help kids in and out of the car, and they're not going to be able to do that this year. You know, our guidance is to kind of stand back away from the curb and not do that. So they're not breathing in on your car and just all those kind of things. So maintaining social distance. So the other, I think I've put it in the last 2 newsletters, so you probably know, like, this is something that we're going to have to be pretty tight about, and this is not going to be a loose, or we'll have to make phone calls and that kind of thing. But this part right here about no one will be able to enter the building until exactly 8 o'clock. And the reason for that is we can't have groups of students. You know, you've probably seen the hallway before school starts and how crowded it is, or a lot of students in the gym walking and doing things in the gym, and we can't do that. And the other thing is our staff is not on contract until 8 o'clock sharp, and so we don't have anybody here to watch your children. And so we will not be opening any doors until 8 o'clock, and we will not let people even on the property because we can't have crowds or large groups of people. So we'll have you wait on the edge of the property till 8 o'clock, and at the 8 o'clock the doors will open, and then we can kind of manage that entrance a little bit easier. So I know that will be a change for people, and our teachers too. We have to get used to that. So they start at 8 and they have kids at 8 o'clock. So you can imagine that's a little bit different and challenging for them as well. So that's probably the main thing that I think will impact families, just getting used to that differently. So I'm going to just talk about this grade level designation, and then I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. So if you've been at Bentwood before, then you might remember how dismissal worked at the end of the day, where students go out the door that's closest to their classroom. And so when we started talking about how are we not going to have groups of kids, just picture the schoolyard or the playground at dismissal. Like the playground will be closed before and after school. We can't have kids playing on the playground while we're doing dismissal. We can't have groups of people talking and hanging out. And so one way that we could spread people out is by having everybody enter and exit through the door closest to their classroom. And that really helps. It's a challenge as far as we have to have a lot more people managing arrival and dismissals in terms of teachers on duty and staff supervising different areas for safety. But yet at the same time, it keeps people spread apart naturally and it's safer. And so that's what we're going to try here to start the school year. So the doors are listed in this document where your child will enter the building, and they will see a teacher standing at the door, and then there'll be another teacher standing at the door of their classrooms, which are right next door to each other. So there'll be someone supervising the classrooms as kids get started, and there'll be another teacher at the door kind of doing that meet and greet. So that's what you'll see. And then I've been watching people out in the yard off and on today take their back to school pictures with our yard signs. And the reason for that is we're not going to be able to do that the first day of school. We're not going to be able to snag the teacher and do the first day picture or just some of those things that we have valued, and it's just been tradition for schools we can't do. So if you haven't been up here to take your photo, be sure to dress up and pretend like it's the first day of school tomorrow or the next day, and you can come do your back to school pictures before the first day of school. And I think that will, still give students that experience, and you'll have that memory, just not on the actual first day. So we'll look at the map, and that will help me be able to explain this to you as well. But knowing your door letter will be really important. And I think your students will figure that out pretty quickly. And then the other change will be we can't have kids running through the building. So we're really minimizing traffic through the building or controlling the traffic through the building as much as possible. So the sidewalk that goes around on the north side is kind of going to be, we're kind of calling it our outside north hallway. So we'll treat that like a hallway. So all traffic in or around, all traffic that would normally go through the building will be going around the building on the sidewalk. And so that'll be a little bit different again, but that's to minimize people through the building and just, contact with other people in close proximity indoors. So that'll be the outside hallway. And then the last thing about that, if you've had a 4th or 5th grade student before, they've used the doors on the south side. We're like the south side of the building will be closed. We just don't have enough people to manage that side of the building also. And we want to focus all of our attention kind of on that north outside hallway. So the south side will be closed. In 5th grade and 4th grade, you can see we'll be exiting from different buildings.
Third grade and 4th grade.
Sorry, 3rd. Yes. Sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
See, that's why she's on here, because you have to remember, I haven't seen your regular process for arrival and dismissal. So this all makes perfectly good sense to me, but I know it'll be a big change for some of you that have been here for a while. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the map. No making fun of my map, because what I did is I took the school map and I turned it on its side and then I drew on it. And so it's kind of goofy looking, but again, I just really wanted you to be able to visualize it, and I think this helps. Or maybe it's just how I think, I don't know, but just go with it for this time. So here's our normal school map. And so I'll just talk you through this before I show you the next slide. So right here is the main entrance to the school where it says East and Bond. So Bond Street would be out here. And over here on the side, this will be the north hallway. It goes around here, and I'll show you that in a minute. This sign that says playground right here, think of that in terms of the blacktop or the basketball court. That's right here. And then so Quivera's back here on this side in the car drop-off spot. And so that just might give you some perspective on how I have the map changed here. And I just turned it this way because it's bigger and you can see it better. So I didn't keep north, going up like you learn in elementary school. All right, so here's the picture I drew on. Again, I apologize, it's sort of goofy. So the parts of the building, the parts around the building that are closed, I marked off on red. We are not using any of these red areas during dismissal or arrival at all. No kids on this side of the building. There will be no adult supervision here at all. And so if your child enters through C or D, you'll pick up and drop off on the east side here, and they'll go right in their designated door. So these gray ones here are where kids will walk. Now, for those of you that have multiple children in the school, we're kind of focusing all of our drop off and pickup around the youngest sibling. So if you have a kindergartner and a fifth grader, because they're over here at the door, I don't have it in front of me now because I had to switch screens. What door is it, Emmy? Fifth grade, D?
Fifth grade will be C.
C. So third grade will be D. So C would be fifth grade. If you have a kindergartner, they're going to be over here at L, M, or N. So you would drop off your fifth grader and your kindergartner on the Quivira side, the west side. And the kindergartner would go straight to their classroom, and your fifth grader or third grader would have to walk all the way around the building on that north outside hallway to their door. So we're gonna go with the youngest. And then at the end of the day, it's just the same process, but reversed. So we'll dismiss students. They'll come out the door, they'll come out that door, walk around, meet where the kindergarten would be meeting, and leave from the kindergarten or the first grade or second grade or fourth grade. So we're always focusing on the youngest child, unless there's some special request that doesn't work, and then we would talk about it. But overall, generally, we're accommodating the youngest student. So we don't want you to have to go to both sides and drop off, and that would be crazy for you. So we're trying to make that part easier for you. Let me think what else here we needed to talk about. If you have kids that go to before and after care, they will come outdoor queue and go to their designated door. So even the kids that are here early, we're not having them tromp through the building. They're going to go outside, walk around to their designated door. And then we'll also have someone from the before and after school kind of standing here to help manage this outside hallway and remind kids to put your mask on, you know, social distance and all those kind of things. So that's, I mean, that in a nutshell is how it will work. We'll dismiss, we're going to do what we call a gradual dismissal. So we'll dismiss our walkers first and our kids that go to before and after school first. And so walkers, if they're on the east side of the building and they need to exit or they need to go get a sibling, they might have to walk around. The fifth grader might have to walk around, grab their kindergarten student, come back around, and then go back out the bond side, depending where they leave. But walkers will all leave first. So we're going to start that process at 3:25 for dismissal for the walkers. We want to get everyone that's walking or in before and after care out of the way before we start putting anyone in cars. And so that'll just help kind of thin the traffic and help keep it under control a little bit more. So if your child is bused, they'll be dismissed when the bus comes, and they'll exit out their designated door and come around to the bus.
And we have a few questions in chat. Sharon, do you want me to share those now, or do you
Yeah,
want
because I can't see the chat when I have my screen up.
Okay. So we had, let's see, sorry. Let me scroll up here. Okay, so the first one was walkers, and I'm not sure I quite understand it right. Walkers that live on the Q side of the building.
So it's Ingrid Stutzman. My daughter's going to be in third, but she will be walking. But we live on the Quivira side, so I just want to make sure I tell her to walk like around the building.
Yep.
And hit the sidewalk to cross Quivira.
Yes. Okay. Yep. So she would be coming from up here, going across the crosswalk.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So she would come on, get on the sidewalk that goes around the building.
Okay.
And then she would walk over here to door D.
Okay.
Yep. Great question.
Just wanted to make sure because we're on the back end and I just didn't want her to walk the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to put her in the red lines.
No.
Good question. Thank you.
Okay, and then there was a question about, I think in the morning when kids leave before JCPRD, would a kindergarten student go outside door Q and then go around to their class door?
Yes, thank you for asking that. That's a great question. And the answer is no. We just think for kindergarten, they're right there across the hall, and we don't really want to send them outside to do that. So kindergarten, we've talked to Shelby, and we'll have special arrangements where they just go out the door and into their classroom. So yeah, yes, that was a good question. Yeah, so you sometimes you just have to use good logic. Like, no, we're not going to make them get all bundled up when it's cold or rainy and go out and around. We're just going to go across the hall. So yes, so that's a good question.
Okay, then we had a question about bike riders. Students who ride their bike, are there designated racks for them to use for their bike? So like if they're coming across Quivira, do they have to use the rack by their grade level door or by the Quivira side or what?
Right. Okay, that's one of those questions we did not think of. So I'm
It
gonna kind
is.
yeah, Emmy was on the Return to Learn committee and was like, well, that one did not come up. But here's what I would say. I'm assuming, and again, because I can't even think right now off my top of my head, but I'm assuming we have bike racks on both sides. Yep.
Yes. Yep.
So you will have your child park their bike on the side you live on. So if you live on Quivira, they're going to park their bike right there on that side and then use that outside hallway to walk around to the other side of the building and vice versa. Because what we don't want is bikes driving on the sidewalk that people are walking on.
Okay. And then there was a question about students who do, some days they walk and some days they drive. Will they just need to know for that day?
Yeah, so that will be similar to the way it's done in the past. That happens where maybe your children walk most of the time, but on this day, someone's going to pick them up. If you let the classroom teacher know, then they'll make that adjustment, and they still would enter and exit through the same door they do when they're walking. You would just need to know too, as a parent, that you pick them up on the side of the youngest sibling's door or only child's door.
Okay, and then there's a question about kindergarten, which I could probably just answer. It's wondering if kindergarten goes through the drive-through. Historically, we've always had kindergarten picked up at their door, at their classroom door. And then Sharon, I don't know if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, so again, just not having kindergarten won't even have been in the building. We're doing a beep and greet where they can drop off supplies. We don't want them lugging everything that first day and just a wave at the teacher. But we're not changing any of the drop off or pick off that we've ever done for kindergarten. Just we want to keep that as simple as possible. So your kindergarten teachers will be in communication with you for the details about pick up and drop off for kindergarten. But basically what we've done in the past is had them park in that church parking lot that's right by the school, and then they can walk up. And we'll just need parents then to be very aware of social distancing. You won't be able to come in the classroom at all. You'll have to drop them off about 6 feet from the building and let them walk the rest of the way by themselves. And I know that's going to be really challenging the first day, and the 2 kindergarten teachers that we have will be there and smiling through their mask and welcoming your children, but that part will stay similar. And the same with pickup. You'll park in the church parking lot, and we'll release them to you there.
Then a question about bus riders, and I'm sorry if I cut in before we were going to get to bus riders, but just wondering about the procedures for them.
Yeah, so we, believe it or not, we have very few bus riders, but the buses generally will pick up on the east side, and when the bus pulls up, we're not doing an announcement, but we're getting really good with technology this year. So we will have a system where we contact the people in the classroom, and bus students will be released to their buses. And so they'll walk around the building, same thing. They'll use that outside hallway or exit right to the bus and get on, and there'll be adults along the way the whole way to guide them.
Then a question about what if it's raining?
Well, we did, Emmy and I laughed because we talked a lot about if it's raining. If it's torrential rains like the other day, we'd be waiting until the torrential rain stops. But on a general rain, you're going to need to have a coat and a hood and umbrellas ready for students. They have to walk to and from the building, home, or to a car anyway, but they are going to have a little longer walk. The same in the winter, if it's not blizzarding at the time, we'll have the sidewalks cleared and be using that outside hallway as much as possible. And, there might be times where we have to adjust that and have kids cut through the building. But even if we had to do that, they would still exit and enter the same doors. So we wouldn't change that part from a parent perspective, would not change at all. It would only be, if I had to make an all call, like, okay, the weather's too bad, you're going to have to take the nearest route to your door you usually would meet your parent by, or whatever. So that's what we'll do for that in case of it very extreme weather. But if it's not very extreme, they're going to be walking around the building.
Okay. And then, okay, a question wondering about at drop off, would it be okay for a parent to park, I assume, park or on the Bond side, the east side, and then walk their child around the back, the north hallway, the outside hallway, to a classroom on the back of the building, the Quivira side of the building?
So that's a really good question, and the answer would probably be a no. So the walkers are on the west side. The walkers will meet by the basketball hoops, and we'll have cones designated for the walkers to be dropped off at the cones, and then they'll walk the rest of the way by themselves. And the same would happen on the east side. So even if you park your car, they might have to, I don't have the map of going out to the road, so I'm looking out the window. We've talked about having the walkers congregate a little further up away from the front doors. And so you could walk them to where the walkers will be meeting basically, but then they'll walk from there. So, I mean, again, we're treating this sort of like it's a hallway, like an indoor hallway. And so we will want this to be just for students. So that's a really good question too. Thank you for asking that one, whoever said that one.
And I think we've already talked about kindergarten. The question was whether you park on the Quivira side of the building to drop off or.
Yep, it's on Quivira side at the small church that's right there.
Okay. And then, okay, there's a question that's not about arrival or dismissal that I'm going to remember and come back to. We've talked about inclement weather. Okay, then just confirming. So for a kindergartner with a second grade sibling, how will I drop off and pick up?
Yeah, so with your, here's what I'm going to say about that, because we've said the youngest. So to start the year, what I would tell you to do is treat it as if you're dropping off your kindergartner. Your second grade student would then walk on this gray line over here to H. So essentially you're dropping off, but your drop off is going to be a little further over here, and they would walk. Now, I believe once the year goes on and your kindergarten knows what door they're going in and they're comfortable, you can probably pull up like any other car and both kids get out and walk where they're supposed to. But at the beginning of the year, I'd keep them together and do what your kindergartner does.
Okay, and then a kind of a question for how kids will know when their car is here. The specific was if, yeah.
Okay, I can answer
and
that.
thinking of our younger kids, like
Yeah. So in the students will be in their classrooms until their parent arrives. And so we'll have a teacher that's on duty at the entrance of each of the sides of the building. So when they see you pull in, have a sign that says your last name in the car. And I probably need to emphasize that in the sheet, and I don't think I have. But you'll have a sign that says your last name that you'll put up in your window. They're going to text that name into someone in the building who is putting it on a Google Doc in the class. All the classrooms will have that up. So if your last name is Ingebrand and you arrive, someone's gonna, well, I picked the worst name ever because that'd take a long time to type, but they're gonna put in Ingebrand, and your children will be watching the screen in the classroom, and the teacher will be too. And they'll be dismissed when they see the name pop up. So we have those people stationed out by Quivira and out by Lucille and Bond out there, so we can see you coming and the student has time to get out. So we're trying to make that process as quick as possible. But we think doing it with our phones and a Google Doc in the classrooms is going to be the fastest and most efficient way. So that might be a little too much information about how it's going to work behind the scenes, but that's what we're hoping anyway.
And then another question, just confirming that kindergartners are the only exception to the JCPRD kids exiting, and okay.
Yep.
And then I think you already answered this about, will there still be a controlled pickup for our younger grades? And yes, first graders will still go out the I door and it'll still be controlled.
Yep.
Okay, and then we have a question about, I'm actually asking about how the parents of the walkers that live in Bentwood, so on the Bond side, can get to the back side of the building to pick them up, to pick up walkers. So if a student is, and let me know if I'm saying this right or not, if your student will be dismissed on the back side, the Quivira side of the building, and you are walking and wanting to meet them, how will you pick them up? Can you
Great
walk around?
question, because we're not going to make you walk around the big block in the grass. You know, I think that you'll be the first ones there, and so you will have to just walk around the building on that sidewalk. Good question. See all those little things you think of that we did not think of that, but that's a good question. We're not going to make you walk all the way around. And then what I would encourage though, once your child gets comfortable with that, you can, you know, start having them meet over here with the other walkers, because we'll have cones set up or some kind of designation set up out here where walkers will go to wait for a parent that's coming to pick them up. And so they can walk around the building by themselves and meet you over on that Bond side. There'll be a pickup spot for the walkers over by the Bond side on both sides, so your child knows where to go.
Okay, and then also just wanting to confirm, will there be staff supervision on that outside hallway?
Yeah, yes. Yes. So we'll have people, we'll have the JCRPD, I think I just said that wrong, right here watching it. And then we'll have staff members here and on the corners, and then 2 here, 2 in the back, and then a teacher at every door. So there'll be lots of people.
So yeah, we will make sure that your child gets to the correct door to get in. That's a good question. Okay, let's see. Okay, and then we have okay, sorry. Okay, if we live on the east side of the building and we have a kindergartner, we will not be able to walk around the north side of the building. We will have to drive to the Quivira side. Oh, for pickup and drop off.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, if you're a walker, again, like that would be a
or just if they're picking up a kindergartner in the car.
Yes, if you're picking up in a car, you would go back to that back parking lot. Yep. But if it's a walker in that situation, like I explained to the other question, like the first few days, like we're not going to say, oh my God, you got to leave your kid here. I mean, you would want them to eventually be able to walk around the building and meet where the other walkers meet on the east side. But for sure, those first few days, especially at that dismissal time, you're going to be there before everybody else is coming out. And so you would just walk back there and wait for them there.
And then a question about, since in the past, parents were able to park in the parking lot on the Quivira side and walk across to get their kids. Can we still do that?
Okay, say that one again, Emmy.
So can we still park on the Quivira side, park in the parking lot on the Quivira side at dismissal and get out of the car to pick up our kids, especially if we have to wait for an older sibling to walk around?
So basically you're going to drive, but consider your students a walker. We'd probably discourage you from doing that. We'll have somebody way out on Quivira checking cars so they have plenty of time to get out there. And again, the reason for that is we're trying to minimize foot traffic and crowds of people. So the safest way would be that if you're truly picking up and driving them somewhere, you stay in your car. Now, that's not to say there might be an occasion, or again, like those first few days when your child might be nervous, you park, but then you're considered a walker and you would wait on the playground by the walkers.
Okay. And then we have a question kind of about, does schools really start at 8 a.m. or 8:20?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me answer that. So school will open the doors at 8 o'clock and you're considered tardy at 8:20-ish, because we know that these first few days is going to be ish. But doors open at 8 o'clock, tardy, the bell rings at 8:20. That 8 to 8:20 time, students will be engaged in learning activities. They might be doing some writing or some menu choices that teachers have them working on, some math games or something like that. So we have that full 20 minutes to get kids in the building. We know it takes that long. And so anything that they're not going to be missing, hardcore instruction in that 8 to 8:20 time, but kids will be engaged in activities in the classroom.
Okay.
All right, Emmy, I think I'm going to go on. If we have more about lunch, because some of these are really specific to individuals, unless you see another one that you think would just be clarified for everybody. Okay. I'm going to go on and talk about lunch. And then if I'll stay on when people have questions, if they want individual questions answered at the end. Does that sound all right? Okay. All right. So lunch, same thing. The basic principles that we've used for everything we're going to hold true to those in the lunchroom as much as possible. So mask will be worn the whole time until students sit down and go to eat, and then they can take their mask off. Social distancing will be in place both waiting in line and exiting and while sitting at the tables. And so I know the hybrid is so challenging in so many ways for all of you, and it is for our teachers also. But one benefit is that we can have students sit on one side of the lunch tables and all face the same way. So they will not have anyone sitting across from them while we are in the hybrid model. Now, when we bring all students back in, we'll do our best to alternate them at the table so no one's directly across from them, but it won't be 6 feet anymore. But for now, we have two students on the side, so 4 on one of the great big long tables, and we're able to get kids in there in a socially distanced fashion. So I think that should be reassuring to you. That's how we're starting. And then the other thing, again, they're going to be with their stable group. So our goal would be that whoever they sit by in the classroom, we're going to try to have them sitting by that similar group of people or the same people in the cafeteria as much as possible. Now that will have to be modified. We'll have a place for students with allergies to sit. And in the past, we've had a table where like friends can sit. We can't do that this year. And so as much as possible, we're going to keep that stable group and the people that are around the most often together. And that's for contact tracing if someone would get COVID. That's why we're being so careful about that. And look, Roxanne's going, yep, because she has to do that process and it's pretty intensive. So we're working really hard to know, where kids are at all times and who they're by and who they're working with and who they're playing with on the playground. Like we have to keep track of that and know that information in case we would need it. And so that's, definitely an added element that we've never had to think about before at all. So that's something else that we're considering and we're worrying about at lunch. And then, you know how at lunch they always carry in their little card. We're working out a system with Mary Ann, the person in the cafeteria. We're working out a plan with her. So kids aren't going to be carrying cards. We're going to be taking care of that electronically without them having to carry a card. And that's to minimize the exchange and the passing back and handling of objects. So they'll wash their hands before, after lunch, have sanitizer. And kindergarten and first grade will go to recess first and then eat. In second through fifth grade, we're going to do what we call a staggered dismissal, well, and a staggered arrival. I'll talk about that in a minute, but a staggered dismissal. So as students are finished eating, they raise their hand, an adult comes, they empty their tray, they wash, and they head straight outside. And again, that's to minimize the herd of kids waiting in line to dump their tray, waiting to go out recess, talking loudly and kind of messing around at the table while they wait to be dismissed. It's to spread all that out and slow it down. So there'll be a gradual dismissal. So we're going to do a staggered arrival too. So again, this is a benefit of the hybrid. So we were able to take our lunchtime and split the gym in a way that we can stagger entrance into the gym. So there are never more than 2 classes in the gym at a time, and they enter and exit at least 5 to 10 minutes apart. And so on the side that your child would sit on, there's 10 minutes between classes on that side. So there's ample time. We want a lot of time for the people that are in the lunchroom to be able to really sanitize the tables and the benches. And so that will occur before your children ever sit down after the next session. We have plenty of time for that, and we've been able to work that out. So I think that's another huge benefit. We have an entrance door and an exit door, so we don't have kids crossing paths. No self-serve lunch. Kids will not be able to go back for seconds like they have in the past. The people working in the lunchroom will put the food on their tray for them or give it to them already served up. And so there'll be no student handling of food, just carrying their own tray. So in a nutshell, that's lunch. So Emmy, were there any questions about lunch? And I know these arrival, dismissal, and lunch have been where I've gotten the most questions. So that's kind of where we chose to focus.
Okay. Yes, just 2 so far. Will lunch be shorter, like the time that the kids eat? Will that be shorter, or will kids be starting earlier, eating later than
Yeah,
usual?
we were not able to spread out our lunch. Like, some buildings were like going to add in a half hour, an hour. And really our guidance from the district level, because of our staff that serves the lunch, we were able to add about 15 minutes. And so I don't have that schedule right in front of me, but I believe our first group of kindergarten eats lunch at 11:05, and we have everybody out of the lunchroom around 1:05.
But they will still have the same amount of time to eat
Yes.
as they did in the past.
Yep.
So,
If they need that full 25 minutes to eat, they have that. For the 2nd through 5th grade, if they don't need all that time, they're going to be released, and we're going to let them go outside and run off their energy.
Okay, and then a question about what do kids do with their masks during lunch? Do they just put it on the table, or?
Yeah, we love this question. We've had so much conversation about this. Most teachers have bought those chains that you hook your mask to. And if you've already purchased those for your child, that's fine too. But that will likely be what most people do, is have it on something around their neck and they take it off while they eat, and it's right there to put it back on. We thought of all kinds of things, and we had them on we've had all kinds of discussions, but I believe that will be what most people do, that in some way it's hanging around their neck. Good questions. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is recess, and it's not on here, and then we're gonna do the Q&A. So I mentioned recess a little bit, but we have 3 primary areas where students play on our playground. By the basketball hoops on that blacktop area, the playground itself, in a grass area. And so what we've done is we never have 2 grade levels on the playground at one time. So you can imagine the scheduling. It's been interesting, but I think we have it. So there'll always only be 1 grade level on there at a time, and then kids will stay with their stable group. So for example, Mrs. Bettis's class might be on the playground on this day, and Miss Stover's will be on the grass area. And then they might switch the next day. And so we're very careful about that and keeping kids apart in that way. They can still play on the playground. We will not be sanitizing the playground. So, you know, if that's worrisome to you, you'll want to guide your child not to play on the playground, but we can't sanitize that. It's too big. We will have balls and the normal toys out there, and they'll be sanitized. They'll be sanitized each day, probably not between recesses. We just don't, there's enough time to do that. And so we are going to be washing hands before we go outside and when we get inside. And so, you know, that we're going to do the best we can with that. We know that students are going to need to be out there playing and running and have opportunity to go play by themselves, or, you know, 6 feet away from their friends where they can take off their mask and just have that little bit of breather. So we're going to do the best we can, but that's our conversation about that right now.
We had a couple more people asking the same question about lunch, just about those chain, you know, mask keeper things. Is the school supplying those, or do parents need to get some?
You know, I believe most teachers have bought them, but I will check on that. That's something that we will likely provide if we have not purchased, teachers haven't purchased them already. I believe most have already purchased them, but I will double check on that one. So parents, you don't have to worry about that one. Roxanne, you're writing that down for me, aren't you? Thank you.
And then just the concern that that staff need to have grace with kids who might have trouble keeping track of rules and how things have changed. And
yes. and vice versa, you know, this is a lot of change and a lot to remember for staff and for students. And here's what I've been telling staff, and I'm going to tell you the same thing with your children. We are going to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to go, ooh, that did not work like we visualized it. And we might have to bring that committee back together and say, here's a challenge that we're seeing. We got to change this, make it better, and we'll communicate that out to you. But we are not expecting perfection from any of your children with any of this, and neither are we expecting perfection from our staff. You know, we're going to do the very best we can, but goodness sakes, you know, even as adults, like I get up and go run out of my office and I'm halfway out the door down the hall and I go, I don't have my mask on. And so that it's going to happen. So please know that we're going to exercise grace.
mm-hmm.
And we need you to also, I guess that's the last thing I'd want to say.
And there was a comment, and thank you, that somebody said we need to have grace for the teachers too. So
yes, thank you. Your teachers, you should be so proud of them. They're working really, really hard. All the new technology has not been easy. It just has not been easy for people. And so, you know, they're expecting perfection out of themselves coming out of the gate day one. And I keep telling them that it's not realistic. So they're doing the best they can. I think you'll see humongous changes and growth as we progress, but grace is going to be needed, and it's going to be greatly appreciated. They're working really, really hard. Other questions? And it can be about any, because I know that book was 17 pages long. You might have a few questions I didn't talk about. Raised hand. Hannah, go ahead.
Okay, hi, I'm Rachel.
Oh.
Hannah's my daughter.
Oh, perfect.
I'm sorry to keep asking. So just to understand, because we are walkers and we live on the Bond side. So, and I know neighbors who will be walking their kindergartners. So when we arrive at school, can I will have somebody leaving H and D, arriving at H and D. Can I walk all the way to the back on the north hallway, or do I need to?
H is your youngest?
H is my youngest. She can, I mean, you know, I could ask the teacher to switch. I just don't know how many people are going to be asking exceptions. So,
right.
But like for kinder, same thing. Like, can the parent, because my neighbor I know is asking, can they walk their kindergartner using the north hallway in the morning or only at pickup?
Yeah, we hadn't really talked through that part. Our thinking was is that walkers would stop at the drop-off place for walkers, but we haven't talked about that in the morning. So I totally understand your concern. Like I said at the beginning of the year, I'd want to walk back there too. I totally get it. I think, like you just said, after a few days, they're probably going to be like, okay, mom, got it. But at
Right,
the
yes.
beginning, we're not going to be, we're going to meet the needs of the students. And if you need to walk your daughter back there, we don't want the sidewalk full, but we'll certainly understand
Sure.
that and modify as we go. And you'll know when that you can gradually release that. And is it a she? She'll be good to go on her own.
Yeah, yeah. And mainly, I mean, also for kinder, I just know that will be a question you'll get, 'cause I know a lot of kinders that are walking from
Yeah.
our side.
Yeah.
And
And I'm going to
one
write
other-
that down because we'll try to problem solve that. And that might be something I just have the kindergarten teachers communicate what we want to do for that.
Okay. And one other quick question regarding masks at recess. Will it be on our students to sort of decipher like, okay, I don't need to wear my mask when I'm doing this, or is there going to be, are the teachers going to sort of guide them on that, or how?
Yeah, both. Yes, to
Okay.
both. So, teachers at the beginning of the year, this is what we've talked about, that whole first week in a normal school year is spent on routines, teaching process and protocols. We just have a whole bunch of new ones to teach. And so they'll teach kids that, talk about it with students, probably have some tricks to help them learn it. And then at times when kids forget, they'll be like, remember, you need to spread apart, so it'll be all of that you
Okay.
would expect. And the other thing to remember is if you're A through L, you're A day, M through Z, you're B day, unless you got a call from Kelly Kipp and she changed you. And by allowing that, so thank you for those of you that were flexible on that, because we have 11 in one classroom. Otherwise, we do not have more than 10 in any classroom. So that's going to really help us get started and help kids learn about all of that before, we have to potentially add another 10. And so it'll be easy to manage, I think, with 10 students. So thank you for asking that. It was a good question.
Thank you.
There were a couple of questions in the chat about masks. Well, 3 questions actually about masks. One, if a child forgets a mask at home, will teachers have disposable masks available? And then how many masks should each child bring to school every day?
Those are such great questions. Okay, so Rox, you might have to help me, Roxanne, on this one. We have been told that we will have some student mask on hand, like student size mask, in case someone forgets them or something happens during the day. I don't know that I have seen or have heard that those have come in yet. I know they were having a difficult time getting them. Have you heard, Roxanne?
We do have some masks, yes, but I would recommend parents put a clean mask in the backpack and one on their child on the way to school so that there's a mask. Because if we have to give even one child a mask for the year, that's a lot of masks. So we will have them in emergency, but it would be our preference for everyone to put the mask on the child on the way to school so they know it's there, and put a clean one in their backpack for the day, just in case.
Yeah, I was going to say that same thing, Roxanne. I just put a Ziploc baggie in there and have a mask that's always in the backpack in case it's needed, and then one on their face, and then you're covered. But that's going to happen, that something happens to their mask, they get food on it, they reset, who knows? It's going to happen. So have an extra available. And then, I don't know, I probably have 15 myself. So you're going to need a lot to wash and keep clean. And it's kind of one of those new things we do at home too right now.
And then the other mask question we had actually another one, but one we'd had pretty early on when we were talking about arrival and dismissal was whether or not preschoolers are required to wear masks.
Yes, they are.
Okay, and then would it be helpful to label the masks with our child's name?
Oh, possibly, yes. Not a requirement, but we're never opposed to that for sure.
We're hoping they're not going to be off their face except at lunch and recess maybe. So, but you sure can.
Yep.
And then a question about dismissal. Is dismissal still 3:40 for car riders?
Yes.
And then a question about what will group B, if your child is in group B, what will they be doing on the first day of school, since they don't go in person until Thursday? So I don't know if you want to address.
Yeah, I can talk about that. It's a very commonly asked question right now, understandably. You will be getting an email from your child's teacher and a Zoom link. A Zoom will be offered each of those days, and we fully understand that you might not have a device at home available for your child to jump on. We know that, but we will offer it. And then you will also, in your email, have some activities that the teacher has prepared for your child to do those first 2 days. And the reason for that is, you know, with the iPads and just helping students log on for the first time and work through the password challenges and all of that, we need them to be in school to do that. Yeah, that's when we're gonna need grace. That first 2 days of school, it won't look like that the rest of the year. I feel like potentially that could feel like our voluntary plan in the spring, and that's not what it's gonna look like all year, but those first few days will definitely be, you know, a little different than what we would want in our ideal state.
There aren't any more questions in the chat.
I had a quick question.
Go ahead, Christine.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering for like kindergartners and stuff, as far as like water fountains, would it be recommended to have our children bring a water bottle during the day for drinks, or will there be a water fountain in the classroom that's sanitized? Just how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I believe you'll be hearing this from your teacher too, but we will want everybody to bring a water bottle, and we'll have fill stations and kids will learn how to fill their own water bottle. But the drinking fountains have to be, they're closed. We'll have water available, but it won't be through the drinking fountain.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I had a quick question, not about dismissal or arrival. This is Kelly Klein, by the way. What about with regards to school supplies? How is that whole landscape going to work? So I know there was a lot of sharing in the past. Is that going to be instruction coming from the students' teachers, or how is that going to work? Is there anything in general that you can maybe tell us about that?
So we can't share supplies like that at all anymore. And so your child will have an individual place to put their supplies, and only they won't only be the ones that use their own, you know, they won't be able to share.
Should we then make sure that everything is labeled with their name very clearly so there's no crossing of this person's got my crayon and that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a requirement, but that always helps when parents do that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. What would an early pickup look like? Say if they had a doctor's appointment that you had already scheduled and you had to pick them up, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, what would we need to do for that?
Excellent question. So it'd be similar to what you've always done in the past, where you call in or let us know. And then because parents can't be in the building is such a great question. We have a table. This is for if your child forgets something too, and you have to run it up or leave early. It's for all of this. You'll wait in the vestibule, and then we will contact your teacher or go get the child and bring them to you. And if you have something to drop off, you would leave it at the table, and then we'll go out and get it and take it to the classroom. So we're kind of using that vestibule area. You can come in there, and that's where we'll wait and meet you for any kind of, doctor's appointment and ththings like that come up. I believe that is in, I don't know what page that's on, but that is in that booklet. It might be on page 16 or something. No, it's like it's way at the end, or maybe it's the first page. I can't remember.
Okay, and then a few more questions. Are you concerned about severe car backup on Quivira? As
Yes.
someone who was on that committee, I can also answer. Yeah, we are.
Yes, we were very concerned about that. And that's why we decided to put the person with the phone way out there by Quivira, because we want to see right when you're out there, we're going to be texting in and your kids are there waiting so we can make it go faster. And so 3:40 is when we officially start that, but please know, like, if our walkers are cleared out of there by 3:35, we're gonna start that process. Like, we're gonna be very conscientious of that. We don't want to do that at all. But could it happen the first few days until we get our flow going? Yep, we're worried about that.
Okay. And then a question about the water faucets. Did the water faucets get checked for Legionellas? Roxanne, I don't know if that's,
I have not heard anything about that.
All right, I've not heard any check of that either.
But
Can
the
you hear
water
me?
fountains right now, we have the faucet part of it covered.
Can you hear me at all?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't tell if I unmuted or not. I just was asking just because the water in all the taps have been sitting there since last year, and there's been a lot of news reports about other schools that have tested and they tested positive because it happens when the water just sits there and it can cause Legionnaire's disease or whatever. So I just didn't know because I know a lot of schools were testing, but that was just what I was kind of wondering about. Because even though the faucets will be covered, if they go wash their hands, it still can transmit that bacteria.
I can pass that request on to the health director of services for the district, and I'll follow up on that. Thanks for pointing that out.
Thanks, sorry.
It's all right.
Hey, again, that's something we hadn't thought of or heard about. You know, our teachers I know have been using the restroom, so hopefully they've been flushing that out. Don't tell them that I said that.
and then a couple more questions about school supplies. For one question, for supplies then, should we be keeping stuff at home for hybrid, or do you want us to bring everything to school on that first day? I would imagine teachers would maybe communicate that.
Yeah, they're gonna be okay if you stagger the supplies that are on the list. They do need at school, but they're gonna be fine if you stagger that as far as bringing it to the classroom, because that's a lot to carry. And so, you know, absolutely spread out some of those bigger items, especially. But yeah, the things on the list they will want at school.
Okay. And then a question about, have the school supply lists changed at all?
I believe the only change that I have heard, it's already on there, but they added headphones for kindergarten and first grade students. So even when your students are here in school and half of them are at home, they will get to interact and do some things together on Zoom. And so we'll need those headphones, or you know what happens if you're in the same room on a Zoom call. It gets really squeaky loud and no one can hear anybody and you get an echo. So we'll need headphones for those of you that have that on your list. And I think that was the only change that I've heard of, though, that's been made.
One other simple one is I'm just asking everybody to send an individual chapstick with their child so they aren't trying to come to the nurse for Vaseline.
Was that on the list, Roxanne?
I suggested that to the teachers. I don't know if it got on an actual list.
Well, that'll be coming soon to you in a newsletter.
Right.
Are all the lists on the Bentwood site?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
And then a question about if a kindergartner is part of JCPRD, but if we need to have them be a car rider one day, like one day a week, I'm assuming, how would that work? Would we just email or call the teacher?
Yes.
Okay. And then, oh, some nice comments. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you for our dedication and caring for educating your children. I mean, we're glad to do it. We love your kids. That's why we do what we do. But thank you for those nice comments. And about keeping kids safe. Okay, and then a question about, do the headphones for the school supplies need to have a microphone built in? And then another, is there any particular type of headphones?
No, no, it doesn't have to have a mic built in. They'll still have that on their iPad. The mic, there's a mic on your iPad also. No, we don't have any, just as long as it fits in the iPad.
Okay, yeah, and somebody commented the kindergarten list just said not earbuds or earbuds.
Other questions?
Will the mic work if the headphones are plugged into the iPad?
Good question. I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I feel like
Um,
I've done that before on the Surface Pro and it worked, but I'm not positive about an iPad.
Yeah, their microphone and headphones work if they're plugged into the jack.
Okay.
And then also somebody wondering what generation of iPad it will make a difference in the headphone. Yeah, since I'm an Android user, I can't speak to that either.
I don't know either.
I think Apple has the Lightning jack, which you have to get the conversion kit. So you might want to check with what version of Apple you're using, because I don't think they have a standard jack like Android does. So
Yeah,
you're telling
they
people to
don't.
buy headphones, which they're going to have to buy the conversion kit, because I think Apple uses a Lightning cable. You can buy a Lightning cable that connects to a headphone, but you put headphones, it's not a standard headphones unless the Apple has a headphone jack, and I don't think it does.
Okay, we'll find that out too. I wrote that down. You guys are giving me homework.
They would say it on the box. Normally they do include the Lightning to 3.5 millimeter.
Okay.
But most likely these are coming from the middle school group, and they didn't give it to the last kid, so we probably don't got that. We probably won't have that conversion jack. So that means everybody would have to either get a headphone jack or headphones that are Lightning cable, or they have to get the conversion kit along with the headphones if they want to use any other version, which is just an extra piece that they lose. The small kids are going to lose.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much for letting us know that. We'll check on that.
Okay, and then we did have a question about the procedure for if a child gets hurt or sick during the day and parents need to come and pick them up from nurse. Will they be allowed into the building, or what would be the process for that?
Roxanne, you want to take it or you want me to?
No, get it. Thanks. What we will do the best of is actually bringing the child out to you. You can either come in the vestibule like she was talking about before, if you're picking up or whatever, and I can bring them out there to you, or you can call from your car and let us know and we'll get the child out to you. We'll have to do that probably on an individual basis, depending on who's available and who's not. So just when you call on your arrival here, just call us and we'll figure that out.
Okay, sorry to
So a
change.
lot of the questions have been about classroom, but I just wanted to, I put that PowerPoint slide up here, and so each grade level's worked out restroom breaks. I think that was another question that you have. And so we're going to have people in the building that go help with some of the restroom breaks, so we don't have long lines or groups of kids. And so that's being taken care of at the grade levels. And as far as like active engagement, we'll sanitize supplies between groups, have kids help wipe down things when we can. Just keep everything as clean as possible. They'll still work in a small group with the teacher, but they'll be spread apart, and it'll be 3, not 7 at the table. So we're thinking about all of those kind of things also. But if there were any other classroom related questions, we'd be glad to answer those also.
I can read a comment about the headphones for the iPad by a teacher who says that it's just regular headphones, not the Lightning ones. We have older iPads. So, and then also a question just wondering when we will be notified of any change of plans from the school district, like a moving from hybrid to, back to normal or what?
Yeah. And Roxanne, you might have heard too, but I believe September 26th is the date that the district is going to examine the data that we have available and make a decision for the next month. So September 26th is kind of what we've heard that we'll find out at that time. No more questions. You guys have been so nice. I was worried about what are they going to ask? Well, I know the answers. There's a lot of information. If you have questions when you get off this and you go, oh, I was really thinking about this and I wanted to ask it and you forgot to, please send me an email. You can call. You can message Roxanne. Any of us are very willing. Kelly's answering the phone all day, answering questions. And we know this is a lot of information. It's stressful. Some of it's confusing. There's a lot of information coming out at you at one time, and some things have changed multiple times. And we're just doing the best we can to keep you informed of that. So, what I would end on again, I can't tell you enough how excited teachers are to be back in the building, how excited they are to have kids come to their classrooms, and how very, very, very hard they have been working and learning this last 10 days. So please know that we're ready. We're ready to have you come back. We're excited about it. We're going to make mistakes and we'll self-correct along the way. Your feedback and your help is really important to us. So, we can do this and it's going to be great. And we want kids in school. So thank you for jumping on. I appreciate it. I will make sure you get updates in the newsletter and through Blackboard both. And if you don't have any other questions, you're welcome to log off. But thank you so much for jumping on this evening.
All right.
If you have individual questions or you want to ask me something, I'll stay on till everybody's off.
And I'll just say, Sharon, a lot of very kind notes and thank yous in the chat from people.
I have one question. Do you know if the kiddos will need headphones for the class and for home? Will they go back and forth, or do we need to get two?
I think I would get two, but yeah, I think you'll want them at home too. I always laugh. If you have multiple kids, you're going to want them at home too. So,
Okay.
So you're not listening to everybody. Yeah, that's up to you though.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I missed the discussion about school supplies, or what are we expected to bring on that first day?
Basically what I said is that, you can decide. I would send the things that they're going to probably use that first day, like the markers and pencils and some of the basic things like that. But I would spread that out. We don't expect students to bring everything that first day. That's a lot to carry. So that's up to you, but try to think of what basic things would they possibly be using the first day and send those things in. Markers, crayon, pencils are what come to my mind first, but you can.
What about the sanitary supplies? Can we bring those in slowly for the teachers?
Yes, that's fine. We have some to get started. We just know we're going to need more as the year progresses. So yes, I think we'll be fine for a few days, and thank you for asking that.
Would it be, I guess it would be something I would have to ask the teachers individually about having hand sanitizer on our child's desk. I bought extra to have for my kids. I didn't know if it would be allowed to actually have it on their desk readily available for them.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We probably will, I don't think we'll have it on individual student desk. We'll have, trust me, these teachers are going to be sanitizing constantly, but I think probably depending on what age your child is, that would, ask the teacher.
Okay, thanks guys for everything you're doing.
I'm starting to recognize some names. I kind of like that.
I have a question about kids with allergies, and I think it was briefly mentioned and I couldn't hear it very well, but my son normally sits at the allergy table, and there's a couple other kids in his grade that also have food allergies. So, but are they still going to be separated, or but not together with anybody kind of at all, or is that how it's going to work?
Yeah, we will have an allergy table for students that have need to be separated like that. Yeah. But I mean, the bad part is they won't be able to have a friend come sit with them like they have in the past.
Okay. Mhm. Mhm. All right, thank you.
Yeah,
thanks-
I know that's going to be a little different for kids. I know.
Yes, and I was the one who said the kids will need grace because I know my son will have trouble with all the rules. So thank you. I know you will, and I have total grace for you as faculty. So thank you.
Thank you. Do any of you have specific questions that you want to ask in a smaller group?
Hi, I'm Candace Kling. I'm Tessa's mom, and she is going into 3rd grade. But I just had, so I will be, because I'm working remotely, I work for Children's Mercy, but I've been home, obviously. So I'll be dropping her by driving because our distance is far enough. So she's a D entrance, and so I go on the Bond side. Do we just drive through the circle drive like you would drop regular morning, and then she'll get herself out, and then she just goes on her way? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Just making sure. I'll panic the first day, and she'll panic. But people will guide them. So.
It's going to be nice. We just have half the students that first day, so that'll make it feel a lot different, I think.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks for getting on.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Any more questions I can't see faces, just names, but any more questions? All right, if there are any more questions, Emmy, we're gonna go. Oh, you're welcome. Linda's iPhone, thank you. All right, if we don't have any further questions, we're gonna go ahead and close down this Zoom. Thank you for coming coming to the Zoom. If you're still listening, we really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.